Kero is a 2-year-old boy and the younger brother of Ryu. Their parents tragically perished in a plane crash. Today, they are meeting the chairwoman of a school who also lost her children in the same accident. The chairwoman wishes to adopt them. Upon their arrival, she greets them with, "Why are you so late? I've been waiting since morning." In an unexpected moment, Sero calls her Shaggy, prompting Ryu to cover his mouth and apologize on his behalf. The chairwoman then proposes a condition for their stay. Ryu must work part-time as a babysitter at her school. A staff member named Siwa escorts them to the daycare, where children are playing. Siwa explains that this is a babysitter club, an idea initiated by the chairwoman's son, though it never took off due to a lack of interest. Inspired, Ryu declares, "As the first member of this club, I'll do everything I can." Siwa, moved by Ryu's dedication, wishes him luck and departs. As Ryu opens the daycare door, all the children stop playing to stare at them. Then, they dash towards Siwa, hiding behind him. One child tugs at Siwa's ear, waking him up. Siwa introduces himself to Ryu as Ooze Yahoo, a graduate of the school and their sole caretaker. Ooze mentions he's heard of Ryu and Siwa. The children eagerly ask Ooze if they can play with Ryu and Siwa. Ooze instructs them to introduce themselves first, forming a naming train. They energetically shout out their names: Kirin, Taka, Takuma, Kazuma, Takuma's twin, and the youngest, Midori. After introductions, Ryu introduces Sero, who is placed on the ground. However, Taka calls him a monster, rallying the others to attack Monster Sero. Ryu intervenes, offering to play the monster for them instead. The children enthusiastically attack Ryu, poking and pulling at him. Observing this, Sero tries to help his brother, but is repeatedly pushed back. Feeling helpless, Sero retreats to the bookshelf, grabbing a book and glancing at Ryu, who is surrounded by kids. Ooze notices Sero's loneliness and gently asks if he'd like the book read to him. Sero silently shakes his head but continues to gaze at Ryu. Understanding his feelings, Ooze pats him, assuring him that Ryu is just caught up in the moment. Ooze soon informs Ryu that his shift is over and hands him Midori, asking if he can manage the kids alone. Ryu confidently agrees. As Ooze leaves, he privately muses that he might have stayed longer if Ryu had asked. Ryu changes Midori's diaper, only to be interrupted by Taka, who climbs on him. Kirin then offers food she has prepared only for the twins, Takuma and Kazuma, to accidentally ruin it while playing. Ryu comforts the saddened Kirin while tending to the crying Midori. Throughout the chaos, Sero remains quiet, feeling out of place. The children's mothers arrive to collect them, introducing themselves as Yukari, Yumi, and Yoi. They warmly greet Ryu and Sero before leaving. Just as Ryu settles down, Taka's older brother Hayato arrives to pick him up. Introducing himself, Hayato reveals he's a third-year student at the same school as Ryu. Hayato appears stern but reasonable, though Taka resists leaving, wanting to stay and play with Ryu. Hayato reprimands Taka, sparking tears. Ryu steps in, noting that Sero seems lonely, and decides to spend more time with his brother. Later, Sato collapses with a fever, prompting Ryu to rush him to the hospital with Hayato's help. A doctor informs Ryu that the fever is likely caused by the stress of their new environment. While waiting, Ryu reflects on his parents, overcome with grief at the realization that he and Sato are now alone. The chairwoman appears, comforting him by reminding him that although the departed won't return, they aren't truly alone. Her words finally allow Ryu to release his pent-up emotions. Back inside, a nurse brings out a crying Sero who immediately reaches for Ryu. Hugging his brother tightly, Ryu scolds him gently, saying, "You should have called for me sooner, you little fool." That night, Ryu wonders if Sero has come to understand that they'll never see their parents again. The chairwoman later enters to tuck them in, adjusting their blankets. After she leaves, Ryu begins to cry, finally agreeing with her words. No one is ever truly alone. The following morning, the chairwoman notices some shabby flowers on her desk and asks Seiwa about them. Seiwa explains that Ryu and Sero had picked them for her. When he moves to throw them away, she blushes and changes her mind, deciding to keep them. Meanwhile, Ryu stumbles through introducing himself in class, but seeing Hayato's reassuring expression, he gains confidence and completes his introduction. At the daycare, Taka asks Sero if he'd like to read his favorite book together. Sero nods, prompting smiles from the other children. Later, Ryu reads a Power Rangers story aloud. Taka claims the role of the Red Ranger, but Takuma and Kazuma both want to be Red Rangers too. Kirin declares herself the Pink Ranger, while Ooze dozes off holding Midori. The next morning, Ryu wakes up to find Sero curled up on his chest. He groggily sits up and hugs him, once again reminded of their parents' absence. Suddenly, the chairwoman bursts in, shouting for them to get up and prepare for school. Siwa announces that breakfast and lunch are ready, but Siwa tugs on the chairwoman's hair and calls her Shaggy. She warns him that if he does it again, she'll give him the same haircut. Siwa imagines it and finds the idea amusing. Before leaving, she presents Ryu with his new school uniform, and he feels grateful for her thoughtfulness. At the daycare, as Sero removes his shoes, Ooze is surprised that the stingy hag bought Ryu a uniform. Ooze tells Sero he'll be back at lunchtime and heads to class. However, Ryu feels self-conscious as other students stare at him. Hayato soon appears, explaining that it's because Ryu brought kids with him. Ryu turns to see Taka and Sero, who had followed him. Embarrassed, Ryu tries to manage the situation, but Taka's antics soon lead to a confrontation with a fierce girl named Inamada, a top student known for her strict demeanor. She scolds Ryu for turning the school into a playground, leaving the children frightened. Apologizing, Ryu takes them back to the daycare. Back at the daycare, they find Ooze napping again. Hayato wakes him with a shove, while Ryu notices that Sero seems disheartened. He pats Sero's head to cheer him up. Inamada appears with Taka's forgotten lunch, sent by his mother who teaches at the school. Her arrival terrifies the children, but she merely hands over the lunch and prepares to leave. Suddenly, Ooze clutches his stomach in pain and asks Hayato to escort him to the nurse's office. He leaves Ryu and Inamada in charge of the kids. Though Ryu assures Inamada he can manage alone, she insists on staying, saying it's her duty. The children, however, avoid her. When she offers to hold Midori, she turns red, loudly justifying her intent to help. Her voice wakes Midori, who begins crying, prompting Ryu to console her. Taka, however, pokes Inamada with a toy sword, calling her a villain. She demands to know who they're calling a villain, startling the kids. Ryu steps in, urging them to apologize, but Inamada waves it off, lamenting that no one likes her. She admits that studying is the only thing she excels at. Kiryan gently reassures her not to cry, and the children, moved, apologize sincerely. Inamada, overwhelmed, hugs them. Soon she falls asleep alongside the kids. Later, Sarah stares at the tiger on his sweater. When Ryu asks why, he admits that Taka called it dumb because he's never seen a real tiger. Taka defends his comment, but Hayato scolds him for being rude. Taka defends his tears, accusing his brother of hating him. Hayato bluntly replies that he neither likes nor hates him, causing Taka to wail louder and storm off to Ooze. Hayato picks him up and takes him home. Afterward, Ryu suggests to Sero that they visit the zoo over the weekend. The other kids eagerly express their desire to join. Ooze appears, offering to accompany them since he can earn extra pay for working on weekends. During dinner, Ryu asks the chairwoman for permission to take the children on a zoo trip. She agrees but refuses to pay Ooze, pointing out that the mothers are also joining the outing. When Ryu invites her to come along, she declines, calling the zoo a stinky place. On the day of the trip, Seiwa hands Ryu a large lunchbox and some money from the chairwoman. At the zoo, Ryu offers to pay Ooze using the money, but Ooze refuses, jokingly planning to sell photos of the kids to fathers who couldn't attend. Hayato, dressed in basketball gear, drops off Taka before heading to practice. The group begins their tour with the elephants, which amaze the children. Ooze takes photos as they visit various animals. When a tiger roars behind the glass, the children panic and run to Ooze and their mothers for comfort. Only Sero stays behind, frozen in fear. Ryu notices his expression and gently picks him up, realizing that if they were in the wild, Sero would be the first to be eaten. Later, the children enjoy seeing tiger cubs, and Ooze announces it's time for lunch. While retrieving their lunch, Ryu notices Sero staring at a family enjoying the zoo together. For a moment, he imagines his own parents. Ooze calls out, breaking his reverie, and the group gathers for a meal. The mothers compliment Sero's beautifully arranged animal-shaped lunchboxes. Afterward, Ooze snaps a picture of the children with rabbits, confident it will sell well. Sero points at a sheep and nicknames it Shaggy, like the chairwoman. Laughing, Ryu and Chero pose beside it for a photo. At the gift shop, the kids beg their mothers for souvenirs. Chero wants a keychain resembling the chairwoman, so Ryu takes him to pay, leaving Taka in Ooze's care. Ooze offers to buy a souvenir for Taka's brother, but Taka blushes and insists he doesn't want one. He suddenly spots someone resembling Hayato and runs off. Ooze, preoccupied with choosing souvenirs, doesn't notice Taka is missing until the rest of the children return. As it grows dark, Taka realizes the man isn't his brother. Panicked and alone, he trips, falls, and starts crying for Hayato. Hayato appears, picks him up, and scolds him for getting lost. Ryu soon arrives, relieved to see Taka safe. Hayato lightly smacks Taka's head, demanding an apology. Later, as the day ends, Ryu mentions to Hayato that Taka had felt very lonely without him. Hayato admits he came because his mother scolded him for leaving Taka alone. That night, as Sero and Taka sleep, Taka mumbles, "I love you, brother." Hayato mutters, "Idiot, I don't hate you either." Ryu teases Hayato, saying that despite his cold demeanor, it's clear he cares deeply for his brother. The next day, Sero is quietly reading while the other kids play. Uz notices the calendar and announces it's Valentine's Day. Holding out his hand, he demands Valentine's gifts from the kids' mothers. The children, confused, exclaim they don't have any gifts for him. Meanwhile, at school, girls gossip about Valentine's Day and tease a shy girl named Yuki about her crush. When they ask Ryu if anyone gave him chocolate, Yuki secretly feels relieved when he says no, as she likes him. Elsewhere, a girl offers Hayato chocolate, but he bluntly refuses, saying he doesn't like sweets. This earns teasing from the boys, who beg for the chocolate instead. The attention shifts to Yagi, a popular and brilliant student showered with chocolates. Inamata, annoyed because gift-giving is against school rules, tries to intervene but is brushed off by the girls. Yagi, ever the charmer, diffuses the tension and accepts the chocolates graciously. Later, Yagi approaches Inamata and mentions hearing about her helping at the daycare. Curious, he expresses interest in joining the babysitting club. Embarrassed, Inamata snaps at him to ask the club himself before storming off. She overhears some students calling her a stick in the mud and begins to question if she truly ruins fun wherever she goes. Yagi visits the daycare, where Ryu enthusiastically introduces the children. Yagi quickly bonds with them, complimenting Kirion's pigtails, praising Taka for being cool, and admiring Midori's eyes. He tells the twins, Takuma and Kazuma, they look like best friends, which delights them. Ryu is amazed at how naturally Yagi connects with the kids. However, in the library, Inamata overhears two boys commenting on how Yagi is always glaring at children. Alarmed, she rushes to the daycare to rescue them. At the daycare, Yagi smiles at Sero, commenting on how round and plump he looks. Just as he reaches out, Inamata bursts through the door, shouting for him to stop. She was startled to see blood on the floor, but soon realized it was just Yagi, who had a nosebleed from poking Kataro's cheeks. The situation took a darker turn when Yagi's friend Nezu arrived in the daycare room, accusing him of being a pervert. Shocked, Ryu quickly pulled the kids away from Yagi, who denied the accusation, claiming his nosebleed was caused by too much chocolate. Nezu, however, pointed out that he hadn't seen Yagi eat any. Nezu dragged him away, and though Yagi agreed not to join the club, he asked if he could visit occasionally to poke the kids' cheeks. Yagi poked Midori's cheek, saying it was fun. The kids, having just learned about chocolate, now wanted some too. Yagi started offering them some, but Nezu stopped him. The kids begged Inamda for chocolate, but she told them it was against school rules, making them cry. She promised them chocolate the next day, and they cheered up immediately. Ryu and Inamda walked home together as the day came to an end. He asked her to wait, then ran into a store. A few minutes later, he returned, handing her a small box of chocolate. Ryu explained that giving chocolates off campus was okay. Inamda teased him for being a stick in the mud, to which he replied he liked that about her. He then said goodbye and walked away, leaving her blushing. Meanwhile, Yuki was secretly watching them, wondering if they were a couple. Back at the store, Yagi was buying chocolates for the kids, joking about how he imagined Sero's cheeks stuffed with chocolate while he had his nosebleed. Siwa offered Ryu and Sero some homemade chocolate. Siwa reached for it, and Siwa helped him take one. Siwa then asked his brother to open his mouth and fed him the chocolate, which Ryu gratefully accepted. Meanwhile, Inamda was picking out chocolates for the daycare kids. The next day, during PE, the boys shivered in the cold. Ryu asked Hyato how he managed to stay still, and Hyato admitted he was cold. One boy teased him, asking if he was going to cry. At that moment, Yusei appeared with the kids in a cart, and they eagerly asked to be let out. They ran straight to Ryu, and their warmth comforted him. Ryu asked Yusia about the cart, and he explained it kept the children from wandering during walks since they were like animals. The kids protested, calling him an idiot, but Yusia scared them by threatening that they could be kidnapped and locked in a dark room. Ryu told him not to frighten the children, but Yusia still warned them not to trust strangers. The other boys noticed how warm Ryu looked surrounded by the kids and began reaching out to them, calling them heat packs and even fighting over them. Nearby, a mysterious man was watching them. Ru stopped two boys from grabbing Kyorin, who hid behind Yusei. Takuma then ran to his brother for help as a boy caught Kazuma, causing him to cry in fear. Ru noticed Takuma crawling into the bushes and called for him to come back, but just then the stranger appeared, grabbing Takuma. Ru quickly handed Kitaro to another boy and rushed to save Takuma, shouting at the stranger to let him go. Hayato threw his shoe, hitting the stranger directly, and Takuma smiled in excitement. The stranger fell, still holding him. Yusuya complimented Hayato's accurate throw, while Ru asked if Takuma knew the man. Takuma happily revealed the stranger was his and Kazuma's father. The man, Kusuk, apologized for causing trouble, and Ru asked why he had been lurking in the bushes. Kusuk explained he was an actor, recently in a toothbrush commercial, and didn't want to cause a scene. Ru and Hayato didn't recognize him, and Kusuk felt embarrassed. He shared that it was his first day off in 6 months and he wanted to spend it with his kids, fearing they might not recognize him. Ru suggested he spend more time with them at the daycare, and Kusuk agreed. Takuma and Kazuma came over, and Ru handed Kazuma to Kusuk. However, Kazuma cried, not wanting to be held by a stranger. Ru explained that Kazuma didn't like being held by unfamiliar people, and warned that leaving now would only create more distance between him and his sons. Kusuk was touched, tears in his eyes, and Ru promised to help him make up with the kids. Takuma commented on Kusuk being a crybaby, but Kusuk played with him. Kazuma still cried, and Kusuk apologized. Yusuya whispered that he didn't know Kazuma disliked his father so much. Kusuk, sitting defeated, decided to leave. He waved goodbye to his sons, but as he walked out, a student recognized him, causing a crowd of girls to swarm him for autographs and photos. Kusuk was thrilled to see Takuma and Kazuma calling him Papa through the crowd. Just then, a teacher appeared, blowing a whistle and warning the girls to return to class. The girls quickly ran off, and Kusuk's wife, who was also the teacher, apologized and explained what happened. She added that she'd been showing the twins his movies to make up for his absence, noting that in his last film he had played a kidnapper, which was why Kazuma was scared of him. The twins asked if he would play with them, and Kusuk hugged them, his tears falling as they smiled with joy. Meanwhile, Sero silently watched their happy family. The next morning, cherry blossoms were in full bloom as Ru began his first day of high school. After graduation, he went to the bulletin board to put up a babysitter recruitment poster, only to find it covered by flyers from other clubs. He went to the daycare room where the kids immediately tackled him. He dropped the poster, which landed on Sero's head, and Kitaro stood still, making no effort to remove it. Yusa read the flyer off Kitaro's head, and Ru asked him to at least take it off. Yusa suggested they visit other clubs, and the twins happily agreed. Tako wanted to visit his brother's club, and Kirin was excited too. In the hallway, the kids held hands and made a parade, singing and dancing, while Kitaro struggled to catch the rhythm. Ru felt embarrassed as all eyes were on them. Kirin eagerly opened the drama club door, but got scared along with the others, except for Takuma, when they saw her mom in zombie makeup. Her mom, who ran the club, joked about the power of makeup, but Ru stopped her, pointing out that the kids were scared. The children trembled, hiding behind him. Sero tugged at his pants, pointing to kids running down the hall, and Ru quickly apologized to her. Yusa, with his scary makeup, ran past them, and the twins met their mom, hugging her. Ru explained they were exploring other clubs when Kirin caught a sweet scent. The kids followed it, and Inamda, who was in the cooking club, greeted them. Ru asked if anyone had seen any kids, and the kids were excited to reunite with him. Inamda scolded him for letting them run off, but blushed, realizing her mistake and apologizing. One girl remarked that it was clear Ru cared deeply for the kids. Ru apologized for the trouble, but when Kuma refused to leave without sweets, he had to drag him away. He promised to visit the sports club where his brother played baseball. Takuma eagerly watched the club practice, but Hayato quickly looked away, upsetting him. Takuma yelled at him for being mean and cried louder when Hayato hit him. Ru felt the sadness Takuma experienced as he realized the fun was being denied to him. Sero noticed more ants and tried to get Ru's attention, but Ru noticed his sad face. Yusuya also noticed. The kids asked where they were going next, and Ru said he needed to find a place to put up the babysitter poster. Kitaro refused to go but pretended not to care. After Ru left, Kitaro ran off, putting the poster on a bulletin board corner. He sulked, but Hayato appeared with an application wanting to join the babysitter club. Sero had recruited him, noticing his sadness. Ru was amazed by how well his little brother understood him. The other kids arrived with cookies, offering them to Ru to cheer him up. He was moved. At the end of the day, the boys wore matching aprons as Inamda brought them cookies. Hayato joked they might break a tooth, and Inamda angrily told them not to eat the cookies if they didn't want to. The next morning, Rue woke up with Kotaro fast asleep on his chest. As he rubbed his eyes, the chairwoman entered, scolding him for staying in bed. When he got out, he slipped and fell. He struggled to get up, repeatedly slipping. Ziwa congratulates Rue on his changing voice, but the chairwoman smacks him and he quickly apologizes, claiming it was a joke. She then takes Kotaro away, warning him that if he also caught a cold, it would double the trouble. Kotaro stands at the door, whimpering, but she tells him to come help make medicine for Rue. Rue lies on the bed to rest. Meanwhile, Kotaro, still calling her Shaggy, asks if she's referring to the blanket or herself. She tosses the blanket at him and asks him to follow her to the kitchen. She aggressively cuts a lemon in half while Kotaro mutters, "Demon lady." She instructs him to squeeze the lemon into a small cup for honey lemon tea to help Rue feel better. Kotaro sits on the floor, shakes, and struggles to get the lemon juice into the cup. The chairwoman offers to help, but he refuses. Finally, he manages to get one drop into the cup, smiling as he shows it to her. She tells him to squeeze more, but he continues juicing. She finds a lemon juicer in the drawer, but allows him to continue. Kotaro finally finishes, but as he stands up, he knocks over the juice. The chairwoman hands him the other half of the lemon and suggests he try again while she cleans up the mess. She comments that Kotaro is quite determined. Later, she asks Siawa about Rue's condition, and Siawa reports that Rue's fever is slightly better, urging him to continue resting. Rue dreams of his family while he's sleeping. In the dream, his parents are going on another trip, this time taking Kotaro with them. Rue begs them not to take Kotaro, fearing he won't return, and cries in his sleep. Kotaro, still alive, wakes him and wipes his tears, though his hands sting from the lemon. The chairwoman appears, pointing out that his hands have lemon on them, and gives him a cup of hot tea, saying Kotaro made it. Rue thanks God for not taking his baby brother away, and pats Kotaro's head, thanking him. The chairwoman lifts Kotaro, telling him he must leave, which confuses him. Kotaro had hoped that after the medicine, his brother would be fine, but the chairwoman insists that Rue still needs rest. Rue worries Kotaro might catch his cold, which leaves him disheartened. The next morning, Midori's mom leaves her with Rue, waving goodbye. Rue suggests they read a storybook before others arrive. But while trying to change Midori's diaper, Rue realizes he's run out. As he opens the cabinet for more wipes, Midori crawls over to the door and accidentally pulls on a student's pant leg, causing him to fall. As they sit and chat, he complains about the smell, jokingly asking if it's a poop club. Sero, holding a Cinderella picture book, listens as the conversation continues. The boy teasingly calls Midori a poop factory and Kotaro space cadet, but Rue defends Kotaro. The boy asks if Rue is looking after a girl named Midori, unaware that poop factory refers to her. Rue questions his interest, and the boy explains he wants to see the face of his future daughter. Confused, Rue asks how he can think about that as a student. The boy laughs it off, saying, "Call me Anui senpai, I'm older than you." Rue reminds him that Midori's mom is married, but Anui shrugs it off, declaring that love knows no boundaries. This leaves Rue flustered, but Anui dismisses him, claiming Rue doesn't understand romance. As Anui leaves, Yusuya waves a hand in Rue's face, snapping him out of his daze. Kirin teases that Rue was sleeping with his eyes open. Poor Sero is still holding the Cinderella book, waiting for Rue to read it, but Rue promises to do it later. He then asks Yusuya about Midori's father, learning he's working overseas, confirming that her mother isn't widowed or divorced. Rue becomes alarmed, wondering if Midori's mom is cheating with Anui. Yusa jokingly asks if Rue likes older women, but Rue denies it. Back in class, Rue tells Hayato about it, but Hayato bluntly advises him to mind his own business. Class starts, but Rue is distracted by thoughts of Midori's mother and Anui's comment about his lack of romantic experience. Rue reflects on how he's never been in love. He tries staring at Yuki, whom others say is cute but feels no attraction. When Yuki notices his gaze, she blushes, but he's lost in his thoughts. He later asks Anamata about her opinion on cheating. She condemns it, saying cheaters deserve punishment. When Rue asks if she's had a crush, Anamata, seeing herself as unremarkable, becomes upset. Rue returns to the daycare, where kids are smearing snot on Anui, while Kotaro clings to his Cinderella book. Rue gathers the children and helps them clean their noses. Holding Midori, he scolds them for picking on Anui. Anui approaches Rue, realizing Midori is poop factory, and asks why Rue didn't tell him earlier. As Anui complains, Midori bites his finger, and the kids call him weak. Rue argues that pursuing a married woman is wrong, but Anui, misunderstanding, believes Midori's father is dead, and vows to support her family. Suddenly, Midori's mom arrives. Anui, flustered, approaches her, only for the children to tease him, calling him a boiled octopus. He stammers but says nothing as Midori cries. Her mother calms Midori, reassuring her that her father will return soon, leaving Anui stunned. When he asks about the faraway husband, she clarifies he's returning from Turkey. Anui, embarrassed, forgets what he was going to say and instead offers to babysit so she can spend time with her husband. She thanks him, and the children attack him with toy swords. Anui later confronts Yusia for not clarifying the situation earlier, but Yusia laughs, saying it was too amusing. Anui sulks as Rue jokes he looked cool. Anui quips about love and marriage, and Rue notices Sero still holding the Cinderella book, finally agreeing to read it. As Rue reads, he imagines Midori and her mom reuniting with her dad. The next day, things take a playful turn as the kids pretend Rue, the Dragon King, has conquered Earth for Demon Queen Midori. The Rangers 5, Taka as red, Karo as blue, the twins as yellow, rise to challenge him. However, Kirin refuses to play, saying she wants to study to become a witch. Her announcement shocks everyone, especially Rue, who worries she's growing up too fast. Taka protests, arguing that boys can't be witches. This sparks a heated debate between Taka and Kirin about whether heroes or witches are real. Rue tries to preserve their childhood dreams, but the fight escalates. Sero attempts to mediate but is pushed aside. The next day, Taka returns with proof of heroes, a photo with the Red Ranger. He challenges Kirin, demanding evidence of witches. Determined, Kirin declares she'll prove it by flying. She grabs a broom and attempts to take off. Watching her struggle, Yusia remarks, "That's not going to work." Taka smugly says, "I told you witches don't exist," but Kirin refuses to give up. Worried, Rue encourages her to return to class, but she persists. Later, Rue shares the problem with Hiato, who suggests telling Kirin the truth. However, Rue believes crushing her dreams would be unfair. As they talk, Animata suddenly appears, scolding them for blocking the hallway and telling them to move aside. Rue quickly apologizes and steps aside, inviting her to go ahead. She overhears him mentioning shattering children's dreams and asks if something is wrong. Rue invites her to join the conversation, but she blushes and declines. As she starts to leave, Rue stops her, explaining they need her opinion. He tells her about Kirin's situation, and Animata offers to help, suggesting they meet during lunch. Later, she brings books filled with evidence of witches, but Rue finds the content too frightening for children. Realizing her mistake, she apologizes and rushes out, slamming the door. Yuki wonders aloud about the nature of Rue and Animata's relationship. Rue reflects that Animata, while a bit peculiar, is genuinely kind. His thoughts drift to the chairwoman, whose demeanor reminds him of witches, and he imagines asking her to pretend to be one. However, he quickly envisions her scolding him to focus on his studies. Meanwhile, Yusia tries to coax Kirin back inside, but she insists she's on the verge of flying. He decides it's fine as long as she doesn't jump off anything. Kirin tugs on his pants, showing him Kirin's witch book, which Yusia begins reading to the twins, who eagerly join in. Kirin, however, spots a ledge and starts climbing, determined to jump and fly. Rue, on his way to daycare with magic trick books, sees her and drops everything to stop her. He catches her just in time, breaking her fall. Kirin bursts into tears, devastated that her dream is shattered. Rue consoles her, regretting that he hadn't simply told her witches are fictional. At that moment, the chairwoman arrives and asks why Kirin is crying. Kirin explains she couldn't fly, and the chairwoman calmly replies, "Of course not. You need 100 years of practice." Kirin's eyes widen, and she asks if the chairwoman can fly on a broom. The chairwoman smiles cryptically, leaving it to Kirin's imagination. The other kids, amazed by her words, cheer up. Taka suggests they can play witches too, and Kirin finally smiles. Watching this, Rue admits that, for a moment, he almost believed the chairwoman might truly be a witch. Inside their modest home, Nezu and his siblings were going about their day when a sudden outburst shattered the calm. His brother Kai shouted angrily at their father, declared he was leaving, and stormed out. Outside, Rue was hanging laundry, and Kotaro was quietly fixated on a line of ants trailing across the ground. He began to trail behind them curiously, but abruptly halted at a particular spot. Retracing his steps, Kotaro tugged insistently on Rue's pant leg, clinging to it as they walked. Rue warned him gently, "I'll trip if you keep pulling on me like that." Then he paused. There, tangled in a bush, was Kai. Mistaking him for Nezu at first glance, Rue instinctively called out his name, while Kotaro pointed and called him a mouse. Kai wrestled to break free from the branches, but when Rue extended his hand, Kai slapped it away, snarling that he didn't need anyone's help. The moment shook Kotaro, unsettling his simple view of the world. Rue, unfazed, patted him and said, "Don't worry, I'm fine." Rue asked Kai if he was Nezu's brother, and when Kai nodded, he added that they went to the same school. He inquired if something had happened at home, but Kai kept quiet. Rue turned back to his laundry, casually mentioning that Kai could talk to him whenever he wanted. Then he asked Kotaro to stay with Kai while he went to contact Nezu. only to realize he didn't have his number. Meanwhile, Kotaro watched over Kai, but suddenly grew frightened, urging him to run as Hands approached. Reaching out, Hands squished Kotaro's cheeks. Rue and Amada then burst through the bushes, and when Hands didn't let go, Amada snapped, warning him she'd call the police if he kept touching the boy. Hands teased her, "You can squish too. Just wait your turn," further provoking her. Kotaro hid behind Rue while Hands wiped his nose. Rue admitted he called Hands only because he lacked anyone else's number, and was surprised to see Amada with him. Hands explained that Nezu was at work, so he came in his place, and bumped into Amada on the way, inviting her along. It became clear Nezu's family struggled with poverty, raising 8 children. Kai's tone shifted as he boasted proudly about Nizu, how he worked hard, brought in money, and still excelled in school. Everyone was impressed. Hands then ruffled Kai's hair, calling him cute, prompting the boy to shout in protest. Annoyed, Amada scolded Kai harshly, calling him spoiled and irresponsible compared to his hardworking brother. Kai began to cry, admitting he wished he were rich so he could afford video games. Amada questioned if he really left home over a game, but Rue suspected deeper reasons. Just then, Sui appeared and argued that children had a right to value what matters to them. Eyeing Hands suspiciously, Sue accused him of doing something to his brother. Hands replied that he only ruffled his hair, but Sui snapped at him to never touch Kai again. Sui explained how video games might seem trivial to adults, but to Kai they were important. He was the only one in his class without one, and his best friend pressured him to get it, despite knowing his family's situation. Kai wept, saying he loved his family but hated being poor. Hands recalled a childhood memory of Nezu turning down an offer to borrow a game, saying he'd make his own instead, because no one would buy it for him. That was when Hands first thought Nezu was truly admirable. Kai nodded, agreeing his brother was indeed cool. Then he asked Rue to pull him out of the bush. Rue helped him, and they both fell over. Rue asked if he was okay, and Kotaro came over to gently pat him too. Hands tried to pull Sui out to play but got kicked. Both boys then told Amada they wanted to grow up to be like Nizu. At that moment the doorbell rang. It was Nizu himself, there to apologize for his brother's behavior. He handed Rue and Amada a box of sweets. Rue accepted it, while Amada looked confused about why she got one. Kai apologized to his older brother, who forgave him, saying they had all learned something valuable today. Nezu handed Kai the video game he had wanted. When Sui asked if he made it himself, Nezu glared at Hands. He explained he didn't make it, but took extra shifts from a coworker who sold it cheap. Then he muttered to Hands, "Half of what you said earlier was a bluff," and kicked him in the shin. He told Kai to share the game with Sui and encouraged him to have fun with friends. Rue thanked Amada for her help, making her blush. The next day, Yusi played with the children, chatting with Rue. Rue mentioned he needed to finish a chemistry assignment during lunch, so he wouldn't be around then. The kids waved goodbye as he left. During the lunch break, Yusi noticed Rue had forgotten his lunchbox. He figured he'd eat it if Rue didn't come back for it, but Kotaro tugged on his pants and held out his hands. "Want to deliver your brother's lunch?" Yusi asked. Kotaro nodded, and the other kids also wanted to go. But Yusi told them to finish their meals first. While the kids eagerly dug in, Yuzi handed Kotaro the lunchbox and pinned a tag on him so he could ask for help if lost. Kotaro nodded and slowly made his way out of the daycare, while Yusi waved, a bit anxious about sending him alone. Then he spotted Inui outside and clenched his fist, a light bulb going off. Midori mimicked the motion. Suddenly, a photo appeared. It was Midori's mom. He blushed, realizing it was bait, and the kids laughed at his reaction. Meanwhile, as Kotaro walked down the school hallway, students whispered, wondering who the small boy was. 2 girls rushed to inform a teacher, but a boy stopped them, pointing out Kotaro was likely on his first solo errand. Kotaro paused at the side of the staircase. Some students offered to help, but he politely refused, determined to go it alone. They admired his resolve and wished him luck. Inui, who had been keeping an eye on Kotaro, was annoyed no one helped. He grumbled to himself, wondering how he got stuck babysitting all because Yusi promised him a photo. As he watched, Kotaro took his first determined steps forward with his tiny legs. At the same time, Rue suddenly remembers he left his lunch behind and shares this with Hayato when asked what's bothering him. Yuki then offers her meal to Rue, saying she's trying to lose weight. He tells her dieting isn't healthy. While he's oblivious to romance, his classmates are not. Several boys jump in and hand over parts of their lunches, interrupting what could have been a tender moment. Rue, with a hint of sarcasm, remarks how great it is to have such thoughtful classmates like in press school. Meanwhile, all the children are sound asleep at daycare. Yusi wants to inform Rue that Kotaro is on his way, but assumes Rue's phone is off since he's probably studying, so he quietly lies down. Elsewhere, Inui observes Kotaro, who is slowly making his way up a staircase. As Kotaro rounds a corner, another kid kicks him in the face, sending his lunch flying. Just as it's about to fall, Inui, his face hidden under a paper bag, catches it in time. He places the food back in the box and hands it to Kotaro. As Inui turns to leave, Kotaro calls out, thanking him as mask, causing Inui to blush. Kotaro then resumes his journey, and Inui chooses to walk alongside him, helping clear a path as they continue upstairs. Rao wraps up his assignment as Kotaro finally arrives, tightly hugging the lunchbox. Seeing him, Rue is caught off guard and walks over, asking if Kotaro brought the lunch all by himself. Kotaro gives a nod. Another boy chimes in, joking that Ryu shouldn't eat more after being fed so much already, and crams bread into Ryu's mouth before Shiro can hear. Ryu thanks him, admitting he was starving. He hugs Kotaro and suggests they eat together. The boys are touched by Kotaro's effort. Yuki's friend comments that her biggest competition is the little brother, making Yuki blush. When Ryu opens the lunchbox and finds its contents a mess, he feeds Kotaro a spoonful of rice, and they enjoy the meal together. As Kotaro completes his first solo errand, Inui is quietly moved, seeing the affection between the brothers. HA appears silently handing over a handkerchief, startling Inui with his sudden presence. The next day, the girls ask Yuki what she likes about Ryu. Embarrassed, she turns red and tells them to keep it down so he doesn't overhear. The boys in class eavesdrop, green with envy. The girls reassure her they aren't trying to compete. Yuki shyly confesses her feelings for Ryu. One girl praises his charm, both kind and handsome. Another recalls him picking up her eraser once. Then someone mentions Hayato is also quite handsome. A second girl agrees, gushing over how attractive he is. A third adds that he might be a bit scary. Another argues that it adds to his appeal, especially since he helps Q babysit, suggesting a hidden softness. Yuki grows uneasy, realizing how admired Ryu is. But the girls assure her they won't get in her way. She blushes, telling them not to hold back for her. The girls then tease that her real competition is his younger brother, pointing out that even if she dated him, she'd never be his number one. Then someone brings up how close he seems to Inada and wonders if he likes her. Meanwhile, Inada passes nearby. Another girl says Inada doesn't seem like the romantic type, she's always buried in books. Just then Amada appears and shoots them a sharp glare. Ryu also arrives, which causes Inada to fluster and lash out at the group, snapping at them to close the door if they're going to gossip. She storms off and the boys whisper that she's scary. Ryo, stunned, notices he's still wearing his apron. Hayato calls him out for being out of it and tells him his back is covered in stickers. Ryu is stunned the kids decorated him without his notice and turns red, asking why no one told him. One girl remarks that he's adorable, and the boys are left confused by the girls' taste rankings. Meanwhile, the children are now sticking more stickers on a sleeping Yusia. Back to Inada, she regrets scolding the girls and admits she probably is unromantic, just as they said, but she only reacted that way because she was flustered, something that always happens around Ryu. That's why she avoids visiting the children. She recalls Ryu complimenting her on Valentine's Day and blushes deeply. Suddenly, she hears someone say her face is red. She spins around and instinctively denies it. Kieran begins to cry after being scolded. Inada snaps out of it and asks what they're doing here, wondering why the kids are wandering the halls. Kieran insists they aren't lost and says she left a note with Yusi. Yusi struggles to decipher it while Taka is desperately searching for Siro. Kieran explains they came to hang out with her. Inada says she's touched, but this isn't the right place to play. Kieran then gets teary and asks if she doesn't like them, since she never visits. Blushing, Inada tries to explain that it's not the kids, it's him. She stops mid-sentence. Kieran asks if she means Yusi or Hayato. Kieran grows worried, thinking Inada dislikes Ryu, which shocks Siro. She quickly denies it, then Kieran bluntly asks if she likes Ryu, which she also denies. Kieran concludes that Inada must hate Ryu, and tries to cheer up the sad Kotaro by saying she has a plan to show Inada how great Ryu is. She grabs Kotaro's hand and urges Inada to follow them. Now crouched awkwardly near Ryu's classroom, Inada watches as Kieran encourages Kotaro to show off Ryu's best traits. Kotaro nods and slides open the classroom door, drawing everyone's attention. He walks straight to Q and lifts his arms. Ryu picks him up, and the girls are moved by the scene. Ryu asks why he's here. Meanwhile, Kieran points out to Inada how caring Ryu is. Inada agrees he's kind but also thinks he spoils the kids. Kieran responds that maybe Inada just prefers strict types and says to leave everything to her. She barges in and tells Ryu to hit her or she'll misbehave. Hayato, without hesitation, smacks her. She starts crying and clings to Ryu in shock. Ryu comforts her, telling Hayato to let her speak before hitting. Hayato insists he already did, which is why he hit her. Kieran then tells Ryu he should be the one to do it, so Inada will forgive him. Inada walks in, saying it's all a misunderstanding, she doesn't hate Ryu. Kieran then presses her again, does she like him? Inada, flustered and red-faced, yells that she doesn't, and storms off. As Anamata walks away, Ryu calls out and hurries after her, handing Kieran off to Hayato in the process. Yuki watches, stunned. He gently grabs Anamata by the wrist, drawing gasps from those nearby. With a soft smile, he points out that there's a sticker on her skirt. A boar sticker, to be exact, and mentions the kids stuck several on him earlier too, which was rather embarrassing. Kieran proudly admits she's the culprit behind the sticker, while their classmates start to wonder if Ryu is just completely clueless. As Anamata walks away, she replays Kieran's earlier question about whether she likes Ryu. She insists to herself that if she had to choose one, she'd say she hates him, yet her face is beet red. Kieran turns to Ryu and reassures him, saying she knows he's a good person so he shouldn't look so down. Just then, Yuzi cuts in asking, "What about me?" Without hesitation, she bluntly replies, "You're a bad person." The next morning, as Karo helps his brother with cleaning duties, Kusuk arrives at daycare with Takuma. Takuma snatches Kusuk's sunglasses and Ryu asks about Kazuma. Kusuk explains that Kazuma caught a cold. At home, Kazuma lies in bed calling for his brother. Their mother comforts him, saying he needs rest and offers him some medicine, describing it as sweet and helpful. Kazuma reluctantly drinks it, and she praises him. Meanwhile, Ryu tells Kusuk that the twins might be feeling lonely today, but Takuma is seen laughing while putting on Karo's sunglasses. Kusuk bursts into tears, saying Takuma is smiling just to hide how lonely he feels. Ryu wonders if it's just his imagination. Takuma seems cheerful, not sad. Yuzi appears, wagering 100 yen that Takuma is perfectly fine. When asked directly, Takuma gives a small smile and says he's okay, Back home, Kazuma looks nervous without his brother. Takuma explains to the group that he promised his mom he'd have fun so Kazuma can get better. Kusuke is touched by his courage. Yusuke declares his win and demands the 100 yen. Instead, he's handed a prepaid 500 yen card. Not missing a beat, greedy Yusuke also asks for Kusuke's autograph, thinking he can resell it for profit. Amused, Kusuke obliges. Even Kazuma asks for one. Takuma doodles on Karo's face, cheerful as ever. Kusuke gently reminds them that Takuma may feel lonely later in the day. As he kneels down to say goodbye, Hado walks in with Taka, and Takuma rushes over, hugging Shiro. Kusuke feels a sting, realizing Takuma seems to prefer Hayato. Ru calls Takuma to come say goodbye, and the kids wave as Kusuke leaves. Yuzi mutters, shady under his breath. Soon after, Taka becomes furious seeing Takuma holding Shiro's hand and yanks Shiro to his side. Both boys start pulling on him. Ru intervenes, saying this isn't tug of war. Hado hits Taka, who bursts into tears shouting, "I'm Shiro's best friend." Taka asks about Kazuma, and upon hearing he's homesick, he approaches Takuma and takes his hand, declaring he'll beat the cold. Takuma agrees enthusiastically, and the others chime in too. Together they dash at Yusuke, tackling him. He begs Ru for help, but Ru, heading to class, replies, "Sorry, can't help." Yusuke collapses, groaning in defeat as the kids call him weak. On the way to class, Ru worries about whether Takuma is truly okay, despite his smile. Kato shares that Kazuma might be struggling too, sick and missing his brother. Ru agrees, imagining Kazuma is probably crying at home, and he is calling for Takuma while sniffling in bed. Ru reflects on the twins' contrasting personalities. Kazuma always in tears, Takuma always smiling. Ru softly mutters he never wants them to be apart, which Yuki hears and wonders who he means. During nap time, Takuma stirs, reaching beside him and accidentally pulling off Taka's sock. Holding it, he remembers Kazuma. His eyes widen, and he glances around searching for his twin. Taka's flailing foot hits Shiro, waking him up. He notices Takuma trying to leave daycare and quickly runs to alert Ru. Ru sprints towards the daycare, concerned. He stumbles, but suddenly sees Shiro running toward him with urgency. Shiro hugs him, then points to where Takuma went. Outside near the school gate, two girls spot Takuma with a cat and mention it. Ru arrives and gently asks what he's doing there. Takuma asks if Kazuma is feeling better. Ru admits he's unsure but hopes he's improving. Takuma looks down in silence. Just then Yumi appears at the gate with Kazuma, announcing that his fever is down and they've come to get Takuma. Kazuma cries out, reaching for his brother. Overwhelmed, Takuma falls backward and begins to sob too. Their mother hugs them both, praising Takuma for being so brave, and says Kazuma got better because he kept his promise. Uzita and the kids emerge after hearing the noise. Observing the twins, Uzita notes the rare reversal. Takuma is crying while Kazuma is smiling. The kids wave to the reunited brothers, now hand in hand. Mu murmurs that the twins are clearly happiest together. Later, Kusuke rushes to daycare to pick up Takuma, but Uzita tells him the boy already left. The next day, Ru finds a note tucked into his locker. Yukawa immediately shows up and loudly wonders if it's a love letter, drawing attention. Watching from a distance, Yuki's friend asks her if she's the one who wrote it, but Yuki denies it. Hayato snatches the letter, eager to read it, but Ru snatches it back, blushing, and says he'll read it privately. As he prepares to read, Inam walks by and scolds them for blocking the hallway. Flustered, Ru hides the letter behind him and apologizes. With dramatic flair, Yusha rips the letter open and begins reading aloud. It's an emotional confession from someone who says she loves Ru more than a cat loves chasing a laser pointer. Yuki and Inamata are taken aback as the letter reveals the girl wants to meet behind the school. Blushing, Ru clutches the letter, overwhelmed by his first confession, and says he needs time to think before hurrying off. Hayato notices Ru forgot to swap his indoor shoes in all the excitement. Meanwhile at the daycare, the kids point out how flushed Ru looks. Yuza wonders if he's caught a cold but quickly realizes he must have just sprinted there. Ru's baby brother gently places a blanket on his lap, patting him and reassuring, "Don't worry, I'm not sick." Even during the day, Ru can't shake thoughts of the letter. He spills baby powder during Midori's diaper change and holds the picture book upside down, only to be corrected by Kirin and Hayato, who also reminds him again about his indoor shoes. At dinner, Siwa presents a bowl of red rice to celebrate Ru's love letter. The chairwoman, noticing the festive rice, asks what it's for. Siwa casually reveals the news, sending Ru into a flustered panic and confusing the chairwoman with his hasty denial. Shiro watches, clearly puzzled. Later, while Kotaro picks out a book, he notices Ru lost in thought. When Ru snaps out of it and asks about the book, Kotaro hides it and silently stretches his arms, opting to sleep without a bedtime story. Ru gently tucks him in, and Kotaro slowly drifts off. The next morning, as Ru heads to school, he's still distracted by the love letter. Shiro looks up at his brother, then bolts off toward an orange tree. Elsewhere, Inamata walks briskly, convincing herself she's only early to study, not to spy on Ru. Yuki has the same excuse, eager to find out how Ru will respond. The two girls bump into each other just as Ru rushes in breathless and grabs Inamata's hand. He frantically asks if they've seen Shiro. He lost track of him while zoning out. Inamata says no, prompting Ru to dash off again. She shouts that she'll help search, and Yuki joins in. As panic sets in, Hayato calls out to Ru. Turning around, Ru sees Kotaro beside Hayato, proudly holding an orange. Hayato explains Kotaro wandered into someone's yard to pick the fruit. The little boy offers it up as lemon medicine, reminding Ru of when his younger brother made him lemon juice while he was sick. Moved, Ru realizes Shiro thought he was ill because of his constant blushing. He kneels down, clutches Kotaro's small hands, and tears up. Later, Ru gently turns down the girl's confession, thanking her, and she accepts his decision with quiet sadness. Hayato, who overheard, asks why he rejected her despite seeming interested. Ru answers honestly Siro is his top priority. At daycare, Yusa corrects Siro. It's an orange, not a lemon, but Siro stands firm. Hiding in the bushes, Yuki and Inamada feel a wave of relief that Ru didn't accept the confession. Yuki then shyly asks if they can be friends, calling her Maria-chan. Inamada blushes and tells her not to use her first name. It's embarrassing. In the next scene, Siwa picks up the phone to hear only heavy breathing. Hayato whacks Taka, scolding him for fooling around. Taka pouts, realizing it's not Ru, and begs Hayato to ask for him. Hayato hands the phone over. Ru answers while holding Kitaro, and Taka excitedly calls out to his brother but gets ignored. Instead, Ru asks if they have free time. When he checks if Siro wants to speak, Taka jumps at the chance. Nervous and eager, Taka loudly invites Kitaro to the summer festival. A bump is heard as Kitaro accidentally knocks the receiver with his head. Ru asks the chairwoman for permission to attend, and she agrees, warning him not to get swindled by festival vendors. Siwa gives them traditional yukatas for the occasion. At the festival, Taka, dressed in a yukata and wielding a toy sword, excitedly waits. Hayato tells him to stop swinging it around. Ru arrives, apologizing for the delay. Hayato brushes it off and asks about his outfit. Ru explains that Siwa and the chairwoman dressed him, so refusing would have been rude. Taka grabs Kataro's hand and races toward the stalls. Ru warns them not to get separated. Hayato debates whether to scold Taka for causing trouble. Meanwhile, Siro becomes mesmerized by the cotton candy spinner. Taka devours his instantly while Siro clings to his, wanting to save it despite Ru's warning it'll shrink. Taka's eyes catch a toy booth offering a hero's transformation belt in a lottery game. The booth attendant presents Taka and Siro with a chance to win, but Ru and Hayato quickly steer them away. They decide it's time to find something more filling to eat, though Taka objects. They realize that the strings in the lottery game aren't connected to the toys, especially the new, expensive game system. Taka starts crying and waves his cotton candy stick, prompting Yusia to greet Ru and Hayato from the goldfish booth. Ru asks what he's doing there, and Yusi explains it's a part-time job from his neighbor. He then inquires why Taka's crying, and Taka reveals he wants to play the lottery game. Yuzi hands Taka and Karo goldfish scoops to cheer them up but requests money, offering a discount in return while joking about his hard salesmanship. Taka insists on pulling strings rather than scooping goldfish, and Hayato warns him to be quiet or he'll be left with Yushi, startling Taka. Taka then asks about his sword, glancing at Siro and then at Yusi, who denies taking it. Ru also says he doesn't have it, and Taka realizes it's lost. He starts crying loudly, drawing attention, and Ru swats him. Ru comforts Taka as they search for the lost sword. Hayato suggests he and Siro enjoy the festival while helping Taka, but Ru expresses his genuine desire to help as a friend, while Hayato remains silent. This prompts Ru to ask if Hayato feels the same. Hayato implies that if Taka weren't his brother, he wouldn't bother helping, making Taka cry again. Ru defends his brother as they continue looking for the sword. They reach the lost and found booth, where Yagi is surrounded by girls. Yaji, who manages the booth, listens to Ru's complaint about the lost sword. Yaji, seeing Taka's tearful face, gets a nosebleed, which worries Ru. However, Yaji's friend Nedzu reassures him, saying it's a normal reaction. Nedzu tells them to check the lost items box, but Taka's sword isn't there. Taka, now even sadder, insists on continuing the search. Hayato suggests giving up, but Taka refuses, prompting Ru to let him search on his own. Hayato harshly tells him to either search alone or join him in the lottery game, reminding Taka to thank Ru. Taka hesitates, then decides to give up and go for the lottery. He contemplates which string to pull, and his brother urges him to choose quickly, but Ru tells him to take his time. Then, Kato impulsively pulls a string, and Taka's sword appears. He's ecstatic to have it back. Hayato confronts the booth attendant, who apologizes for taking the sword and offers a game as compensation. The group gives the game to an old woman as a souvenir, and Siro is disappointed by his deflated cotton candy. The next day at the beach, Midori, Taka, and Takuma are enjoying themselves while Kirin and Kazuma cry, and Tiro remains expressionless. Ru watches the kids, and then Yuzita shows up, commenting on how they've divided into two groups, those who enjoy the beach and those who don't. Ru remarks that Yuzita doesn't seem interested in swimming, to which Yuzita responds he's there for the swimsuit, hot springs, and naps. He asks about Hayato, and Ru points toward the water. Karen's mom appears from behind, startling Ru, followed by other moms. She suggests they swim while the moms watch the kids. Shizuka mentions she asked Inada to come, hoping to give her a break, but Inada arrives late, wearing her school swimsuit. Yuzi calls her a naughty girl for wearing it, and Shizuka playfully hits him. Yukari insists girls should look pretty, and Yoi agrees, so Shizuka suggests buying Inada a beach suit as thanks for making sweets for the kids. Inada tries to protest, but Yusi comments she can't refuse in that situation. The moms hurry Inada to the swimsuit shop. Later, as the kids enjoy corn, Yusi asks Ru why he's not swimming. Ru explains Kato isn't used to the ocean, so he stays with him. Yusi teases, asking what's so scary about it, and throws Kazuma into the water, making him cry. Ru carries Kato into the water, thinking the kids are afraid of being swept away, and tries to show him that the ocean isn't scary. The kids watch in shock as a large wave crashes over them, submerging Ru but leaving Kaito above the water. Back on the beach, Ru coughs and reassures Kato that the ocean isn't scary. Yusi comments that Ru's not convincing at all. The kids tease him for almost drowning, so Ru suggests they play in the sand instead, and the kids agree. The twins build a sand mountain, Taka digs a hole, and Yusi complains about getting sand thrown at him. Siro also makes a sand pile. Ru is happy to see the kids enjoying themselves, but waves crash, destroying their creation. Taka cries loudly, but the moms bring juice for the kids, and Takuma and Kazuma happily drink theirs. Taka stops crying as he receives his. Ru is offered a drink too and tells Shiro they should drink together. Just then, Hayato appears, startling them, and Kaito's drink spills. Hayato offers him seaweed as an apology, but Shizuka smacks him, wondering what Kaito would do with it. Ru gives his drink to Kaito, and Shizuka mentions Inada has changed. She then asks if Ru has anything to say, and everyone stares at her as she wears a pink floral bikini with a side ponytail. Hayato simply says it's a swimsuit, causing Shizuka to sigh. Ru mentions it's adorable, especially the design that leaves everyone puzzled, so he clears it up, saying the floral pattern matches Kirin's float. Other mothers comment that boys might feel awkward praising girls at this age. Shuku jokes, "My son's heartless, huh?" Amada, smiling brightly while matching Kirin's look, seems genuinely pleased. Just then, Ru spots Shiro sitting on the gravel and quickly tells him that's not a good spot. He picks him up and walks away, but the sea water brushes against his feet. Shiro tries not to fear the ocean, and Ru quietly thinks he looks brave and endearing. He encourages him, "Let's go find some seashells," and as they head off, the moms caution him about the heat. Soon Ru realizes just how hot the sand is, while Shiro spots a shell. Later, as Shiro naps alongside the others, the moms tell Ru to go have fun in the water. This might be his only chance. Hayato calls out, urging him to join, and when they step into the sea, Ru feels a refreshing chill. He asks, "You can swim, right?" To which Ru responds, "Why would you ask that?" Hayato explains he thought Ru might not know how to swim since he had been staying away from the water. Ru says he wasn't avoiding it, he just didn't want to leave Shiro alone. He remembers this isn't Shiro's first beach trip. Though the boy likely forgot, their parents once took him to the ocean as a baby, and he wasn't scared at all. Ru wonders if now, the fear comes from not having his presence as comfort. Hayato pushes Ru underwater playfully, and when Ru resurfaces, V asks if Hayato always hits Taka that hard. Hayato scoffs, calling him dumb, and says that wasn't even close to hard. He adds that Shiro wasn't scared back then because he didn't know fear yet. He tells Ru not to say foolish things. Ru admits Shiro couldn't even stand on his own during that trip. Yukari notices Shiro waking up. He sits up, scanning for Ru. She points toward the sea, saying his brother's there. Shiro dashes to the water's edge, stopping at the foamy waves and watching Ru. When he sees Ru go underwater, panic hits. He remembers how Ru held him up last time a wave crashed. Despite his fear, he steps into the sea, but he can't swim. Yukari hurries to pull him out. Shiro bursts into tears, reaching for Ru, who surfaces and hears someone crying. Hayato alerts him of the fuss on the beach. Looking over, Ru sees Shiro sobbing and quickly swims back. He picks Shiro up, asking what's wrong and apologizing for leaving him asleep. Yukari explains Shiro must have panicked seeing Ru disappear underwater. He even tried to enter the ocean just to find him. As Shiro clings tightly to his brother, Yukari says it's touching how close they are. Ru tells him he's sorry for making him worry and gives him a seashell, remembering how their father once said you can hear the ocean through it. He doubts Shiro remembers that, but surprisingly, the boy holds the shell to his ear. Ru smiles, adjusts the shell saying he had it the wrong way, and quietly hopes Shiro will grow to love the beach. Later, Yuki sneaks near the daycare to retrieve her ball, but ends up spying on Ru instead. She blushes, insisting to herself that it's not like that. Takuma notices and she ducks just before Ru glances out. Inada finds her hiding and asks why. Yuki claims she was just looking for her ball, but a cat is playing with it now. Inada calls her out, and Yuki blushes, insisting she wasn't spying. Inada offers to play with her if she's embarrassed to join the kids. As Inada turns away, Yuki blurts out that she struggles with little kids, just as they open the window and peek out. Inada quickly tells Ru that Yuki needs help adjusting to children, then warmly guides her inside. Ru stops Takuma from climbing the window on the way in. Inside, Inada explains how important it is to get used to children for her future. Yuki blushes. The kids stare at her, and Kirin asks her name. She introduces herself, and soon the kids enthusiastically introduce themselves all at once, overwhelming her. Ru comments they seem quite at ease with her, making her flustered. Yusi suggests taking a walk to burn off the kids' energy. They excitedly line up at the door. Each teen pairs with a child. Fan tells Inada to hold her hand tightly. Yusa takes Taka's hand, who grumbles. Ru calls the twins, who happily go with him. Kotaro eyes Ru longingly, so Ru tells Yuki to take his hand instead, assuring her that Kotaro is easygoing. She takes Kotaro's hand and they walk together. She finds him adorable and thinks back on how other kids used to bully her. She's grateful to be with someone gentle like Kotaro. But when she notices his sad expression from not being with Ru, she assumes he's crying. She pulls out a handkerchief, only to realize it's just a runny nose. Kirin runs up and asks her to hold out her hand, then drops bugs into it. She's so shocked that she faints. Her last thought before losing consciousness is that she'll never fit in with kids like Ru and Inada. Later, she wakes up in the nurse's office. Ru checks on her and she blushes, asking if he carried her. He says Yusi did. She apologizes for being bad with kids. Ru reassures her it's totally normal to feel that way. He admits he also hates gross things, especially bugs, and being a guy doesn't make that easier. He explains that kids can be rough, but once you get used to it, you'll start to feel joy being around them. Right then, Yuzi opens the window and informs everyone the kids want to apologize. Kirin, feeling guilty, asks timidly, "Flowers aren't scary like bugs, are they?" Yuki accepts the bouquet, expressing her gratitude, which makes the children smile seeing her cheerful. She turns to Ru and asks where Animata is. He replies she just left, telling him to say sorry on her behalf for dragging Yuki into this. Upon hearing this, Yuki dashes off after Animata, who's upset, thinking she ruins every attempt she makes. Yuki hugs her from behind and thanks her, making Animata blush and feel touched. Now, it's December and the city is fully dressed for Christmas. Shiro is obsessed with Santa, stopping to stare every time he spots one, even confusing a dog walker for Santa. Rue, exhausted, arrives at the daycare and tells Yuzi everything, who replies, "So that's why you're late." Shiro eyes a flyer with a gambling ad, and Yuzi says, "That's not for you." Rue points out he's looking at the Santa image on it. Taka then appears, excitedly saying he saw a super cool Santa at the toy section. Yuzi teases, "Santa only comes to good boys," making Taka tear up, insisting he's good. Yuzi retorts, "But you never eat broccoli," and Taka replies, "I just don't like it." Yuzi jokes Santa might skip his house then. Taka agrees to eat broccoli, but just then Hayato hits Yuzi, accusing him of making his brother cry. Taka then asks Hayato if Santa will visit their house. Hayato starts to reply honestly, but Rue stops him, not wanting the illusion ruined. Shiro gently tugs Taka's sleeve and pats him, calling him a good boy. Taka asks again if Santa will come, and Shiro nods. On December 18th, Kiran announces he told Santa his wish, but won't say what it is. Her father admires how adorable she is and warns Rue not to get too fond of her, asking if he's noticed her charm. The next morning, Yuzi yawns as the children run around playing, and just then he notices Inarada and Yuki. On December 20th, the twins cheerfully say they asked Santa to never separate them. Kusu starts crying, begging Ryu to help pick out a Christmas present for his twin sisters. By December 21st, Yukari is holding an adorable Midori and says she stitched a Santa costume for Midori's dad. Ryu imagines him dressed up as Santa, thinking he'd totally look the part, while Midori smiles. Later, as he changes into his gym clothes, Ryu considers donning the Santa outfit himself, glancing at his belly. Yuzawa notices and asks what he's up to. Flustered, Ryu replies that he's trying to look like Santa. Yuzawa laughs, admitting he thought Rue was faking a pregnancy. Yuki peeks inside the room, but Kata quickly scolds her for spying on the boys while they're changing. A classmate asks Rue if he wants to act as Santa for his brother. Another adds that it's usually the dad's role, prompting a third to scold him, reminding that Rue has no parents, and the boy apologizes. Rue explains he wants to be Santa for Shiro since he's thrilled about it. One kid is touched by how great a big brother Rue is, and another tears up. They suggest Rue order a Santa costume online, but his phone is broken. They recommend asking the chairwoman for a new one, but Rue declines, wanting instead to buy her a gift for everything she's done. On Christmas Eve, Rue and Shiro gaze in awe at the beautifully lit Christmas tree. Soa sets up an extravagant dinner spread, and Shiro gets excited to eat. Rue comments it's too much food for just the two of them. Showa explains the chairwoman is working late and won't join, which disappoints Shiro. Soa then says he has to work too and leaves, deepening Shiro's sadness. Still, he wishes them a Merry Christmas and walks off. Shiro clutches Rue's sleeve, upset they're all alone, but Rue comforts him, reminding that he's still there and they can enjoy the feast together. He adds that Santa will be arriving soon, which cheers Shiro up. Rue remembers the Santa suit his friends helped him get and tells Shiro he needs a bathroom break. As Rue walks away, he's surprised to find Shiro quietly trailing him. Grabbing the Santa outfit, Rue reaches the bathroom to change, but Shiro sneaks in behind him, making it tricky to change secretly. Just then, the doorbell rings and Shiro's face lights up, shouting that Santa has come. When they open the door, everyone is there, calling out Merry Christmas. Rue blushes as Shiro's eyes twinkle with joy. The chairwoman walks up to Rue and taps his head with a gift, playfully saying she can't stand kids who refuse to grow up. She hands him the present, which he gratefully accepts. The room is filled with smiles, from the children, their parents, and Rue's friends, but the happiest of all is Shiro. It's revealed that Hayato had informed the chairwoman about Rue's broken phone, which is why she gave him a new one as a present. Everyone counts down from 5, preparing to snap a festive group photo, and they all shout, "Merry Christmas," as the picture is taken. Thanks for watching. Check out this next video, and remember to subscribe Annie Zap.